Ready? Oh, you're ready. Let me finish signing. You good? Everybody, you have a quorum? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our May ADA meeting. Tracy, would you begin with the welcome and the roll call, please, in a minute?
Chairwoman Living Club.
Here.
Mr. Andre is excused, but may be joining us fit. Councilor Cuddy.
Here.
Ms. Crawford is excused. Mayor Giantino.
Here.
Mr. Lovell is excused. Ms. Welter is excused. Ms. Hennigan. Here. Mr. Salfabro.
Here.
Great, thank you so much. Everyone should have received their minutes in our board packet email. Everybody have an opportunity to take a look at those. Any questions, comments, concerns, or revisions? Nope. Okay. If no, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Good. Thank you, Courtney. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We had a guest this evening for board education. Tracy, would you like to introduce Bob and set the context?
I would love to. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know Bob, this is Bob Griffin. He is the regional director of the North Central Small Business Development Council district, and he is kind of running the show for 11 counties, 12 counties? 8 counties.
Only 8, but
Only 8.
it's like 54 square miles, so it feels like 12.
Yeah, so the North Central SBDC covers 8 counties in central New York and up into the North Country a little bit, and providing services like we've seen from Michelle Barron in the past. Nancy Amstutz is back. So they're providing technical assistance to small businesses and entrepreneurs. In the past, we've definitely seen them work with micro businesses, people looking to do startups, business plans, marketing plans, kind of that smaller scale business is what we are used to seeing SBDC work with. And they are now launching a new program that's more focused on growth stage companies. That could be still a relatively small company, or it could be someone like a Bomir or anyone up to about 500, usually about 500 employees for a small business. So it could be some of those mid-sized businesses that we think of in Cuba County that could benefit from these new services. So I wanted to have Bob come in and talk about the new program and what else is going on with the North Central SBDC.
Thank you very much. Really do appreciate the time. I've had the opportunity to share what we have going on. As a reminder, we are funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration under a grant that's administered by the New York SBDC through the Sweeney Research Foundation. We're hosted at Onondaga Community College and Jefferson Community College. It's actually the most unique partnership for any SBDC in the state of New York, where we're hosted by 2 community colleges, which is kind of exciting. As Tracy shared, we tend to focus more on small businesses, and what we've really been known for, I don't think it's working there, dear.
Oh, wait, let me click on it.
Hey, there we go. Actually, you can go with that.
We're pressing buttons. I'm going to stop pressing buttons.
We've traditionally been known for helping small businesses start up. That's been an earned reputation that I think has been well deserved, because we've been very good at it for a very long time. We've been at this for 42 years. And in that time, we've documented about 4,800 business startups in the 8 counties that we serve. But the reality is it's not really the full picture anymore. One of the things that has troubled me for the last several years is that within the small business ecosystem across the state of New York, we really don't focus on growth stage businesses. We're really talking with businesses between $1 million and $10 million. They don't really get a lot of love from any of the ecosystem partners. That's not necessarily intentional. It's just a gap that developed over time. We've been very good about putting in a lot of resources as a state. The startups have been great about luring in big companies with lots of employees. But the middle part is where we really have kind of left people to hang out to dry. And the reality is that they actually are far more complicated than one would think. They're growing in complexity. The owner, in many cases, is still tied into day-to-day operations in ways that don't allow them to focus on working on the business, to be working in the business. And in many cases, these are some high-impact companies. that have a lot of employees that are investing back in their communities. And so we felt we really need to spend some time thinking about this. So I had the good opportunity to run into my friends at the Michigan Small Business Development Center back in 2022 at a conference in San Diego, where they presented on a program called Focus 4, which was their answer to solving this gap, a structured, intentional approach towards advising these growth stage businesses on how do they scale, how do they become nimble, how do they become more effective over a period of time, and thus become more valuable companies. The mindset is this: valuable companies retain employees, they hire employees, they invest in their communities. And that was the approach in Michigan. It's been a very successful program for the last 7 or 8 years. Working with Center State CEO, they were able to get us some funding from Senators Schumer and Gillibrand that we funneled into a study that helped us develop a plan around how could we build a center of excellence specifically designed to solve this problem, similar to what Michigan did, but learn from them so that we can improve upon that model. And basically, it wasn't a lot of money. $100,000 was the total of the grant that they gave us. And the idea was it was supposed to be to help the supply chain. Okay, that's great. But what am I going to do with $100,000 to help the supply chain? Hire an advisor for, what, a year and a half maybe? No. So the thought was, let's think strategically about this, about how are we developing tools, systems, processes to help these companies. So we put out an RFP. MRB Group was a successful firm that got the contract to help us do the structured assessment, design the plan. We identified it as a strategy that needed to be implemented across the entire New York SBDC network. We're one of 20 centers, by the way. And then really began doing a lot of stakeholder input in order to help design the structure of what we ended up coming up with. Why does it matter? Well, I think it's kind of obvious. Some of you might have heard of Micron. That's probably going to have an impact far beyond what's going to be happening in Clay, New York. Tier 1, Tier 2 suppliers are going to be looking for places to land. There's going to be opportunities for existing firms to plug into those Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 suppliers. And the reality is that businesses have never been very good at scaling for the long term. And so we need to be more thoughtful in how we approach those conversations with these businesses. And the reality is there's no other organization in New York State that's doing this. Nobody. Not ESD, not EOC. Nobody is really thinking about growth businesses in this way, in this fashion, from an advising perspective. So we decided to package up and standardize some growth stage advising. We have a couple of tools I'll share with you here in a second. The model's repeatable, it's modular, it's structured, it gives us good measurable start points and end points, and opportunities for us to be able to evaluate this emphasis on high impact businesses as we continue working with them. These are structured depth engagements. Usually when we're working with a startup business, they come in, they have an idea. Our job is to help them fulfill the goal of getting the business up and running. We continue to be advisors well past that. But for the most part, after they started their business, they usually tend to not need it as much anymore for a while. There is a defined entry criteria in this that really then begins to drive them into focusing on building value in the enterprise, focusing on their vision and strategy, how well are they executing on a day-to-day basis, and how are they focusing in on cash flow, something that a lot of businesses don't do particularly well. Basically, there's two tools that we are implementing in the structure of our Center of Excellence. The first one is the Value Builder System, which is a proprietary platform from a fellow named John Werlow that he developed, and his company is called Value Builder. He wrote a book called Built to Sell, which is a fantastic read, I think, for any small business owner who wants to grow their business. And then we partnered up with the Focus 4 program Michigan created, and basically are marrying the two into one structured advisor program. Value Builder is intended to talk directly to the owner. It really deals with them. How are they integrated into the business? How are they thinking about value generation, value creation, structure of the company? Focus 4 is a team-oriented approach. What it really does is brings the owner and their key leadership together in a series of structured engagements over a very long period of time. We're talking about a year to 18 months, where they are focusing on things like vision, strategy, execution, and cash flow. Value Builder basically does for us simple assessment that maps out the value of a company on the 8 core drivers of value. I know that's a bit of an eye chart, so I apologize. But it provides them a very simple dashboard that allows the owner of the company to kind of prioritize which areas do I want to start with first. And it does so in a way where it maps it onto their peers. So companies in their industry who've also taken this assessment. So there's 70,000 companies in the database in Value Builder and counting who've gone through the assessment process. So, you know, for somebody who, say, operates a bakery, for example, they would see this Value Builder score that would give them an idea of how am I doing compared to other bakeries who've gone through this process. And in addition to that, it really combined with it 2 other assessments. There's a Value Builder score that the company, you know, the 8 drivers of value of a particular company. Pre-score, which is really personal readiness for exiting a business. I know that some people feel like, you know, exiting a business is a bad idea, but the intent is how do we create businesses that have transitional value, businesses that other people will want to buy in the future. And so this kind of helps the owner understand that, because what ends up happening in many cases is unprepared owners end up shuttering their businesses. This is designed to overcome that problem, create businesses that remain in our communities. And the Freedom Score is really helping to understand personal financial readiness of the owner of the relationship. What we're doing with Value Builder is it is our entry point. One of the things we learned from Michigan was they used it as kind of an add-on. We're actually using it as the starting point. The simple fact that we want a baseline on this business to understand what's the value of it today, what are the challenges that they have now, and let's reassess it in a year so we know, did all the work that we've done for the last 12 months move the needle and make this a more valuable company? And if the answer is yes, we will also see subsequent increases in retention of employees, hiring of employees, investment into the firm, growth in earnings, and so on. This can be a standalone process with an owner, particularly if it's a smaller firm, or it could be an entry point into leveraging the Focus 14 approach to thinking about how they're growing the business more organically as a group. And so it is something that can be consolidated into a structure where you're doing the owner on one side and you've got the management team on the other, both happening in concert as they're working together to grow the firm. This is one of the things that they will see when they get their report, which is an estimate of value, and again, match it against their peers within that industry sector, so that we kind of get an idea, okay, where is the firm today? And it's based on a range of industry multiples, which is a tried-and-true method of valuing businesses. And then it establishes, okay, where do we want to go in the future? What does the value need to be in order to be a transitionable business? Focus 4, as I said, really derived from Michigan's work in this space, where they developed a very thoughtful, intentional advisement approach, starting with vision. What's the vision for the company? In most cases, many companies have kind of accidentally grown, and they never really took the time to establish what the vision was for the firm. Especially your smaller organizations that are now hitting that 1 million, 1.5 million sales mark. They never went through this process. They just went, and it worked. It was great. But now they hit that roadblock where growth is now an obstacle because they haven't really fleshed out what is the long-term vision. They don't have a strategy to support that vision. And so this gives them the opportunity to kind of take that step back with their key leadership and now begin to think through those things. The other area is execution. This is where our friends in Michigan have experienced the most intense work with the companies that they work with. They work with companies all the way from $500,000 in value all the way up to $60 million in value, where they really are focusing in on how are we efficient, effective, how are we saving money, how are we managing our teams appropriately, how are we investing in them in order to be able to execute effectively. And then the last section is cash flow, which is really how are we helping to make sure that the company has adequate cash flow to operate effectively. Not just looking at the balance sheet and the profit and loss, really being more thoughtful about what's the next year going to look like, what's the next 2 years going to look like, how our trends affecting that. So our ideal clients for this service line we're really looking at companies that are about 800,000 plus in revenue, have about 8 or more employees, 3 or more years in business. And ideally, they would have some kind of, key leadership structure in place. Those are kind of the basic kind of key areas that we would look at with regard to these companies. There's a lot of them in this region. And actually, the North Central Small Business Development Center, of all the SBDCs in the state of New York, has among the highest concentration of companies to its profile, which is why when the New York SBDC decided to go ahead and give us the green light to launch this service as a pilot, they agreed that Central New York was the place to do it. So kind of where we're at. We launched in March. I'm not going to lie, it was a little earlier than I had planned. But there was an opportunity for some congressionally directed spending, and those deadlines were March 22nd. And so we wanted to launch prior to that deadline for submission of those grant requests. And we wanted involvement from Senator Schumer's office. So the senator sent some of his staff. They visited with us. They learned about the program, and then they were actually at the launch event. And so we probably were looking at launching right about now, but we felt like we had enough in place that we could go ahead and begin moving, and we already have 3 clients that were hot to trot to get into this program, and we have 2 more that are being vetted right now for inclusion in the program. So what's happening now, really from now until winter, we are learning. As pilots go, you need to learn, and we're going through the process of understanding, how all of these tools are coming together to provide for effective outcomes. We are limiting the number of clients that we are going to see initially, and then as we feel more comfortable with the process and the systems and the tools that we're putting in place, we will begin opening it up to more clients over a period of time. Of the clients that we have currently that are eligible for the program we've been talking with, 4 of them are in small manufacturing. 1 of them is construction adjacent. We are looking for some diversification in that. We'll be looking love to see a food manufacturing business in there somewhere. We'd love to have a couple of tech-oriented businesses, perhaps something in the biomedical space. So we've got some diversity of industries that we're dealing with, help us understand how these programs interact with those particular styles of businesses. And as we continue moving forward through this for the next several months, we can apply that learning, how we become more effective at this over a longer period of time. We look to expand regionally starting next spring. So beyond Central New York, we'll probably bring in the Southern Tier, Mohawk Valley, and the North Country is our expansion areas. At that point, we should have answers about our initial funding for this program for the long term, and we'll begin to bring on more consultants that will service those areas. And then beyond that, we're looking at a statewide deployment in 2028. Make it the first time the New York SBDC has ever deployed Center of Excellence on a statewide basis. For us, this is really kind of a great opportunity in terms of how it affects the economic development ecosystem. It gives us stronger suppliers. I think it does give us the opportunity for job retention and creation, and I think that's going to be an interesting angle that folks aren't really talking about with regard to the micron effect. How are companies going to be more competitive at retaining their workers is going to be, I think, an interesting challenge over the next 3 to 6 years or so. I think it also makes us more competitive regionally because we build stronger, more valuable companies that want to stay here. From the business's perspective, I think it gives them better decision-making, helps reduce risk, and I think it gives them greater capacity to be able to scale. And I think once things have settled down a little bit, international trade kind of comes back into the mix as an opportunity to be able to grow. So our delivery model is really just an augmentation of our existing services. Right now, the entry point is through the North Central Small Business Development Center. We set up a quick assessment for people who are interested in the Strategic Growth Services initiative. It's entirely is specialized, everything is adaptable to whatever the client's needs are, even though there's some standardized tools available, the way we approach them and leverage them may be different depending upon what the client needs are. And there's really two different kind of advising approaches. So I have a very simple philosophy that supporting small businesses is a team sport. And so I'm a big fan of the opportunity for shared advising, where we collaborate with other organizations like Center State CEO, like our economic development partners throughout our various communities on co-advising with some of these businesses, working with organizations like TDO, MACNY, and others. So it's not just us doing this work, there's partners involved in this process. We've had multiple conversations with a number of them. And in some cases, all that we need to do is provide that initial value builder assessment, some guidance on some recommended strategies, and then they can go work with that ecosystem partner on those things for a while, and then come back to us when they're ready for a second assessment, and then we can reevaluate what they need to do next. The other opportunities for those organizations to hand off to us, we take them into the Strategic Growth Services pathway, work with them on a high-touch advisory process, and then the ecosystem partner remains a touch point to provide connectivity to other resources, tools, and systems. And so the opportunity for us is to maintain open lines of communication with all of these partners, so it's not just SBDC working on this in the vacuum. It really is a collective effort towards helping folks out. So again, our status right now, we're pilot phase. This is an exciting, interesting, and fascinating time as we are trying to evaluate kind of where we're headed with this. It's fascinating to see the excitement that we are getting from our partners. We did a presentation like this last week with Center State CEO, and they're already trying to map out in their mind how they're going to be fundamentally inspire our clients into this initiative. And then what we're really looking for right now is openness. You know, we want feedback. We need feedback. We can't take a pilot program and make it successful without it. We also are looking for candidate businesses, again, some of the sectors I mentioned earlier. And then obviously we need a funding strategy, which, you know, that is not my area of expertise, but I have some good folks at New York SBDC and with our other partners in the region who are actively having conversations about how do we strategically think about funding for this for the long term, leveraging multiple sources. And, you know, trust me, if it was up to me, I would much prefer to have private sector investment, lending institutions, you know, tech investors, things like that would invest in something like this for the long term rather than taxpayer dollars. So I think that is it. I hope this was helpful. You know, this is obviously new to us, but this has been 2 years in the making, and we're finally here, and I'm excited to bring it to our region and to try to help some of these businesses that need some of this guidance going forward.
So Bob, will you be looking to ADA as one of the vehicles you would use to identify businesses that could benefit from this project?
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure I was understanding what you were saying.
Yep.
And Tracy, how would that look from our perspective?
Yeah, so I think keeping an eye on our pipeline, I can make sure the companies that are coming through our pipeline who are potentially an appropriate fit get referred over to Bob for these services. And I think also just as you're out in the community, like the mayor's constantly talking to businesses in the community, when I know you're constantly talking to businesses in the community. So as you're out there, just keep this in mind as a tool that you can say like, hey, I'm on the ADA board, we had a presentation. I think this would be a good connection, and then that can help also start getting businesses to think about ADA as a connector too. So just keeping, I think this is a tool that everyone should be aware of, just so that as you're out there talking to businesses, clients, whoever, we can make sure that ADA is making those referrals, and then potentially those end up coming back to us eventually at some point.
And would it be beneficial for existing businesses as well? Is that what you're saying?
This is specifically for existing businesses.
Got it. That's what I wanted to
Yes.
make sure.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah. So this particular programming, reiterate.
Excuse me, I want to clarify. I meant outside of our pipeline.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I was saying.
Of course, yes.
Did y'all think I'd lost my mind?
No.
I was like, oh, let me clarify what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so even if it's not someone who's gonna be,
Right.
like, it could be someone who just did an expansion, and maybe
Right.
they're like, oh, crap, how do we, I mean, I assume. And they're like, oh, like, how do we fully leverage this investment we just made
Mm-hmm.
and make it work for us? That might be a situation that this model makes sense. Ideally, you wanna get them into the program on the front end of the
Right.
investment, but, it's not uncommon for someone to make a decision like, financing is gonna go up, we gotta get this money out the door, we gotta get this project done, or it's just not gonna happen. So,
It could also be a company that's in trouble.
yeah.
There could be a company that's in trouble, and, part of, the opportunity is for us to go through the execution phase first, is a way to try to help them alleviate some of those pain points, and then revisit some of those other broader topics in the long term. The other thing I will tell you, we've had a couple of firms, and one of them actually we just brought into the initiative, is a DRI awardee. And in looking under the hood, we're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of meat we need to deal with here, because they're trying to take on not only the project to satisfy the requirements of the DRI, but they're also taking on a lot of investment now that they're not ready for. And so we're like, okay, let's pull this back a little bit, start focusing on some of these things. You still got to do the work in the DRI, that's got a time limit on it. But there's some other underlying issues that we need to tackle, because you get to that without going through these steps, you're going to be in bigger trouble.
Yeah, and, just to put a different term on it, this is ultimately a succession planning tool. So, if that's something you're used to thinking about, and you're thinking about folks who own businesses, maybe 5 to 10 years from now, are looking, ideally closer to 10, are looking to retire, get out of their business, sell it, like, this could be an opportunity to help them set up for success.
Let me ask you this. What I've been seeing recently is companies who invested in the world as it existed prior to January 20th. That world, in terms of supply chain, things like that, no longer exist, or it's changing rapidly. Would that be a good candidate?
Yes.
If it was, so, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the commercial property. Like, if there was some company coming in, this company, would that be a selling point? This would be a service that would come in, or is it established, like, they have to be established here already?
It's possible, I could see a potential linkage.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think that there are so many firms currently within the market that need something like this. And here's the reality. They're not gonna pay $10,000 a month to a consulting firm to help them do this. I am a cheap date.
Oh, by the way, this is all free, if that wasn't mentioned yet.
And most of the companies can't afford to have something. So the fact that we can do it, and we can do it at no cost to them, I think has some immense value. And like, there's so many companies, like, again, the list that the MRV group produced, just not even working that hard. It's crazy. We're talking, hundreds of firms that did that profile.
So in particular, in terms of our property,
Yeah.
if there was an existing business in the community who was looking to grow and expand,
Yeah.
and maybe they're renting or leasing currently, they want to buy property build, that might be a better fit than, say, someone we attracted.
One of the things that I observe about this, I feel like if somebody went through this process, that way of being would be embedded in how they conducted their work. So they would always be thinking about operating from that perspective. And I would say that I don't think that a lot of companies think that strategically about that transition from growth. So I think going through this helps you develop a skill set that you can embed in your own company as well.
Yeah.
So Tracy, you'll help us figure out how we can be helpful to Bob.
Yes, and, I'll share.
I give her homework, Bob, and you.
Under the PowerPoint and a few additional links that Bob shared with me after the meeting today, so that you have it for reference.
Any other questions for Bob? Good.
Just out of curiosity, how that works, is it kind of day-to-day, you have folks that would be working on the, maybe in the office with that saying, well, this is what you should do, or is it more, I'm not sure what it is, we call it.
Yeah, typically these engagements are gonna be more of a structured over a period of time. So like, for example, it sort of depends on the owner. Like right now, I have a client that I'm working with on this. We have a meeting cadence of every 2 weeks. Some clients, they want more once a month. It depends upon the nature of their business and, you know, what works best for them. But the critical aspect of it is a regular routine cadence. And what happens is there are things that the owner and or the management team need to work on. And then our goal really is to facilitate that so that there is continuous progress. And that there's evolution in that progress over a period of time. So it's not necessarily us embedding in there, although, you know, talking with our colleagues in Michigan, they literally are being invited to board meetings. Where they're sitting in on board meetings and being part of those conversations, which is, I think, fantastic, because again, you're bringing in a third party who has no dog in the hunt other than the success of that firm. And so being able to have those kinds of higher level conversations over a longer period of time, you know, that's kind of the goal for the ideal working scenario. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the partnership with Ada. Tracy's been fantastic, and the City of Auburn's been a wonderful partner to us as well, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This is gonna be great.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you. Take care, Bob. Thank you.
So the next thing on the agenda item is we're going to be looking at our new business category. And Tracy, everyone, did they receive a copy of the Common contract? I think it was in our packet, yes. All right, and then, so Tracy, you want to talk to us about this?
So I also shared this with Rob. He took a look, he had some comments,
Mhm.
that I sent back to Camoin. I'm waiting to hear back from them. I'm sure they had to give it to their lawyer. And, so I think this is a situation that I would like to keep this moving. So this came about, because I heard from Indus that as they're doing their financials, they would like to request a longer term pilot that is in our UTEP. So as we changed our UTEP, we included the stipulation that if you are going to request something beyond what we offer in the UTEP, you need to get a third party verification of, and what I call a test of reasonableness, to say, yes, the assumptions they're making about their costs and their operations feel fine. They don't feel out of whack. And the amount of incentive that they're requesting is what's necessary for them to get a reasonable rate of return for their industry. So striking that balance between over-incentivizing and killing a project. So in speaking with them, they've decided to go ahead and work with Camoin to do this test of reasonableness. But that means that we need to have a contract in place with Camoin. The contract that they've set up is basically a general contract that we can add tasks to, so that we don't have to contract with them every single time. We can just add a task as we want to. And keep this, in the interest of keeping this moving, what I would like to suggest is to potentially approve it if we're comfortable with final attorney approval based on the changes that were recommended. Just so we don't have to wait a whole another month, because as you've seen, Indus is moving. They got their zoning variance. They're moving through the planning process. I expect them to be back in the next couple of months. As soon as they have planning in place, they're gonna wanna keep moving because they wanna be in the ground in the spring. So, I expect them to come back, and I don't necessarily want to slow the process down unnecessarily for them. So I'd like to kind of get this in place if we can. But basically what this contract says is that they will provide, they're one of our qualified firms that we are queued for. and that they will provide the services we asked for on an as-needed basis, and set up a new tax for each individual project. There's all sorts of things in there about liability and limitation of liability, and that's a lot of, I think, where Rob got involved in making sure that language makes sense for us. But happy to answer any questions, but that's really the baseline of the purpose of why I want to try to get this done, is just because it's for this project and continuing to move forward.
Tracy just clarified, so the business relationship would be between Camoin and Ada,
Correct.
but the client, who's paying, are we being paid to then pay them?
So Indus is going to pay us a $6,000 deposit,
Yes,
which in this case, I think is actually going to be more than the cost of the test of reasonableness.
right,
And we're going to use that money to pay Camoin.
got it. I'll get
That way, we are the client, Camoin answers to us,
Mm-hmm,
and, you know, they are, you know how consulting can be, like your client, we don't want the project to be,
right,
we want to be the client. So, Indus is paying for it.
got it.
However, we are the client with Camoin, and any money that's left over will either, if they close, it'll go towards their admin fee,
Mm-hmm.
so that the deposit they make, I think this is gonna come in more like $4,500.
Mm-hmm.
So that extra money from their deposit will get, put towards their admin fee. If we don't end up closing on something with them, it'll get returned.
Does this, going through this, increase the workload for you?
Not substantial.
I'm just wondering, our admin fee, I just want to make sure that Ada's being properly compensated.
No, the heavy lift is with Camoin. Now that I have them connected, my role will really be checking Camoin's work, making sure I'm comfortable with the assessment they've done. But then if there's a communication issue, making sure that the project continues. I don't expect it.
I think this is great. You know, I pay less and less attention to the keyboard warriors these days. But there is this misunderstanding of pilots that still exists in the community. When I explained the pilot at Hill Street, back to day one, that Lee Enterprises, which is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, was paying, right? There's going to be that noise about this too, so I think this extra step of saying, hey, we vetted this, we're not over incentivizing them. This is justified. I think this is huge. And I think it underscores the transparency and the trust, diligence that the board want with you on every pilot that comes to.
Especially when we're getting to budget situations like we have. I mean, it's not just gonna be this year, for anybody, the whole state is gonna be dealing with this.
You know, everything I report every day, there have been articles, an increase in articles about increased scrutiny from the state on IDAs across the state, especially because municipalities and school districts are saying, hey, we need more money, the state's not funding us properly, and the state's saying, well, what are these IDAs doing with that state? Again.
Anything else? How does this strike you? Our first time to test our new idea. Anything else? Anybody have, you had a chance to go through the contract, and you understand the business relationship? Those would be the key things. And, you know, Tracy's always available if you decide to go back for a round two and have more questions. So, Tracy, you need a motion from us to accept the Camoin proposal. That
Contingent upon final attorney approval.
Okay.
Going to approve the contract, subject to final approval of, I would say, the board chair, with the advice of council.
Did y'all hear that?
You did.
Did you hear the motion, Bill? All right, all those in favor?
So we need a motion.
I need a, yeah, that's right, sorry. I forgot Rob's just helping me. He's a ventriloquist. Thank you, Mayor. I need a second on the motion. Anybody going once, going twice? Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed, abstentions, it passes. Thank you very much. Is you gonna project the app?
Well, hello, Bill.
Hi.
I gotta sneak it in real quick.
Hey,
How did I look, Bill?
you snuck in. Do you wanna project it? Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is something that I want to offer for our collective consideration based on the conversation we had following our last meeting about how do we create a communications environment that allows us to talk openly and honestly about the work that we need to do, but also doesn't cross any lines for any one of us. We give each other permission to kind of make ourselves think about how things might be coming across, and primarily because everything we say and do is recorded. So one of the things that I often use with boards that I work with is we establish just a set of operating principles. We just kind of agree about how we're going to be when we're working together. So I did a little research to think about what kinds of operating principles are IDAs, could an IDA operate, and I'm just presenting this for your consideration, so that when we each come into a meeting, that we are understanding that this is the framework through which we would choose to communicate, and that we give each other permission. Sometimes it's like Presley's Jack, right, touch the bracelet, that if we're working outside of these boundaries. This is not a censorship strategy. This is about us creating an open environment of communication within some agreed upon principles. So the first one is just talking about constructive candor, and that what I'm saying as the chair and to all of us is that of course we would encourage open, honest, and respectful communication, and that we're expected to share diverse perspectives and to ensure robust decision making. My leadership says that I think everything can be on the table. Like, unspoken stuff is dangerous, right? So it's important that we have constructive candor, and that I'm going to always encourage open, honest, and respectful communications, because the diversity of our perspective is what gets us to the best outcome. No, I'm just saying this out loud, okay? So I need you to do not only, we're all smart enough, I need you to do a gut check, okay, as well as this. Professional boundaries, while we're prioritizing transparency, all discussions must remain focused on the authority's mission and adhere to established protocols for confidentiality in public meetings. So that that would be something that we would all agree. That active listening and inclusion, that we commit to listening with the intent to understand, ensuring every board member's voice is heard and valued before reaching a consensus. That's a meeting management thing that you all can hold me accountable for as well. Accountability to the public. As a public-facing entity, we conduct our discussions with the understanding that we represent the interests of the Auburn community and maintain the highest standards of integrity. And I think that this is really important and something we can never forget. And we can't forget it because everything we say and do is recorded, right? And so one of the things that's really important to me, again, is that we all feel free to have these conversations. Sometimes when I'm working with not-for-profits, I describe it like this, is that it's really important for us to speak our truth because we have that, but also to resist the impulse to do that by doing blaming and judging in the process of that communication. Does that make sense? Now, I want to be clear. That doesn't mean you can't have feelings about somebody or something. I just think we have to be aware that we are having an accountability to the public, and that the highest integrity for me means is that we respect ourselves, our clients, and the community. And then the other thing is commitment to resolution, that we approach disagreement as opportunities for growth, seeking common ground, and focusing on solutions that serve the organization's long-term goals. I don't know if you've ever served on a board where there'll be an issue and you can't bring it to closure because people are committed to it not being resolved. Ever been in that room?
More than 1 year.
There you see. I'm not sure why I say that, because they're very public too, right? That our commitment would be to resolve it. And I think that consensus decision-making is a very specific type of decision-making execution, because when we're using that, it does require that we have significant commitment to support the decision. That doesn't mean we all have to like it, but that we've had enough conversations that we can say, okay, right, where we collectively are committed to supporting this outcome. Because I'm going to always drive for resolution on things that are really important. Because she can't do her job, if not, and we have this public accountability piece. So my goal with introducing these to our board of directors as a way of operating, please feel free to take them into other boards you're in, is to help us be able to have the kinds of conversations we really need to have them in public, but know that we have a collective responsibility that at any point, any of you are feeling like I'm going outside of that boundary, that we give each other a sign, and then then we could talk about stuff, right? But in the context of this, these are operating principles. So I'm just presenting them to you as an idea. So I'm curious about what's going on in your head, your heart, or your gut as I frame our conversations in the way we are with each other this way.
I think it's a good framework. I think it's a good conversation we're having.
Yeah.
Whether you're in an elected office or on an appointed board like this, this planning board, zoning board, there's contentious items that come up, and this is a small community.
Yeah.
And we all have relationships
Yeah.
with people that come to those boards. And I'm guilty of it too. There was an instance a few months ago, I let very personal feeling come out in my role as mayor. And after the meeting, one of my colleagues said to me, "You should have done that." And my colleague was right. And I ate crow, and I made phone calls, and I explained myself, apologized.
Right.
We're human, right? But I think that this is a great framework. Because I don't think in any way does it stifle conversation.
Right.
I think it's a, let's have a respectful, open conversation, and
Right.
let's all have each other's back when we're starting to veer off, the highway, get us back on there. Right?
Yeah, and and it is a small community, and we've all had experiences. I can think of a couple of projects that have come through for us. I was like, Dr. Tracy, I'm gonna let you know how I feel about this. I might not say this in a meeting, right? But I just think it's really important that I set an environment that assures you as the chair of our board that I'm really about constructive candor, us operating within professional boundaries, really engaging in active listening. What that's really inviting us to do is, like, when somebody's talking, you know how often you'll be like, I just can't wait for them to shut up so I can say what I want to say. It's really about, I think we have to train ourselves to hear what other people are saying from their place of intention versus me, I call it psychologically toe tapping on them the whole time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't want anybody to feel like they can't ask questions.
Right.
I had a previous colleague in city council she always said, my question becomes your question.
Yeah.
And you don't know it's your question until I ask it.
Right, right.
So I think it is important that people feel free to ask whatever question.
Absolutely. And I'm very sincere. I am like, everything can be on the table all the time. You should come to a McLeod family meeting. You know that. The things those children tell us. Good thing we have great self-esteem here. But I just like to put these in place, and then there's no confusion, right? So if one of you had to say, I'm Gwen, give me the look, touch the bracelet. When I worked with Melina, we used to touch the earring, right? But if we can give each other a sign. And it's to enhance our capacity to communicate, to talk about the things we really need to talk about, but to figure out how do we get that so that it doesn't come across publicly that we're blaming or judging. Now, what you call and tell me behind the scenes, I'm about that, right? Because there are things that we might want to discuss. But in the context of these meetings, so no, please, I'm giving us permission, if we agree to operating with this, for us to be, I'm going to use this language, to check each other, but that's not a negative thing, you know what I mean? To hold each other accountable for working within this framework.
And what, did you come up with this?
I have some that I used, and then I just did some more research into how would something like this play out in the context of an IDA. But I think this could be, really, I'm very sincere if these resonate with you. I think all teams need to have operating principles, right? But I think there's a lot coming up. I think we're being challenged in a lot of ways to think about industry from a different point of view. I think I'm seeing these projects coming through. I'm about us having open, honest communication all the time, and to do that in a way that allows it not only to feel respectful to us, to be respectful to the people in the community, the people that have existed here, and then, we have the opportunity in me preparing agendas, call me if you think something's, going on that we might need to be thinking about. But this is about us, that we are publicly conducting business, and that would be it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, great.
I never want to leave a meeting,
Mhm.
and I have here more than this. Feeling really guilty,
Mhm.
things are sad.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Right.
When I get offline,
Mhm.
I make clear throat, and if you do this, like
Yeah.
reel it in.
I will.
Because I don't want to feel like that.
Right.
I don't want to. Sometimes
Yeah.
I get, my father's son,
Mhm.
and then you that dad knows that once you get rolling,
Mhm.
that's where I learned it from.
Yeah.
But it's all good intention, but
Right.
once I get rolling, it's like, oh, God, that just come out of my mouth.
Right. Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that could be any of us at any given moment. And Mayor, we're all human. I don't assume we're all coming in here having had the greatest day ever, right? So, but my thing is that I want us to be able to conduct, I call it good right business, right? That we're doing good things for the community and we're doing it the right way because we've defined what the right work is. And Bill, I appreciate you sharing that. I also want to let you know that I'm going to always have your back, right? Because someone might approach the mayor, but Mayor and I are in a different situation, so you need to pass some of that to me. I'm going to have your back, but I'm also the kind of person that would call you and be like, can I holler at you for a minute, right? I always say to my team, if I say, can I offer something for your consideration? No, I'm going to express a concern. And feel free to do that with me as well. Because, Bill, no, the goal is not for you to leave this meeting feeling guilty, and I think really it's just your way of communication. These principles give us all the opportunity out of a really respectful place to, like, I'll give you the sign, we'll decide what the sign is going to be. We'll have a secret password. All right?
And I
So,
just think
go
of
ahead.
a couple of times that someone needed to say to me, do you want a resolution or do you want to be right?
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
Keep me accountable on that last bullet in
Exactly.
particular.
And I want to let you know, and I think we've already done that. It's looked like a lot of things.
Yeah.
Our colleague Karen, really, I love her so much because she brings a style to this table. I do not live in the DNA of details, but Karen does. And I think when we were looking at putting the UTEP together, we just stayed in that because we were committed to resolving that situation. I'm going to let you know I roll like that, okay? So I will say, if not every fiber in somebody's being is not committed to this, then I don't think we should make this decision yet, right? And know that that means for all of us. So you can call me sometimes, because I literally I'm very direct. I say what I want to say. So, Bill, we might have been brother and sister in a past life. All right, but Bill, no one should ever leave this meeting feeling guilty for what you say or feel. We just have to understand the table that we're playing at, and that everything we say and do is for public consumption. And I'm very sincere. Nobody ever talking smack to me about any of you. But I may have to say sometime, like, Courtney, not next time. Would you be willing to give us a heads up, right? That kind of thing. So I don't know that we need to vote for these, but if we're agreeing, unless you want this to be embedded in our minutes that we did, if you're comfortable with this, I'd like us to live without this, and then I'm going to have Tracy just embed them. You know how I send you the note of these, and we have our mission vision. I'm going to also put our operating principles there as well. And Tracy, if you think they'd be helpful on our website, people understand our philosophy about conducting business, I'm fine with that right now. Go ahead, Tracy. Courtney.
I just got a couple thoughts on listening to everybody on the board tonight. And I just want to say that we're all unique.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for a reason. We're going to bring different situations, different answers, different responses when we're presented with information to vote on. But we're collectively a team.
Yeah.
And we're one.
Yeah.
So if we understand that concept, no matter what kind of disagreements are going on, who votes yes, who votes no, it'll never matter. Because at the end of the day, we all call as one. And I feel like even if there is any kind of disagreement or any misunderstanding, it's not nothing you can't get past. I feel true about that. It's about what you want. What do you want out of this? What is your outcome out of it? And I do agree with Gwen when she says that other boards, you can take this information with other committees, other boards. As a matter of fact, take it on your job. Do that. Start there. If you can. I'll just say that much. But with that being said, there's not nothing that you can't get past. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, I'm 42 years old, what is healthy in a relationship is if you have a disagreement, you can show the growth that you can get past it, that's big.
Yeah.
That's big. And, it shows what you're willing to do to get past whatever has come upon you. So I just feel that there's a lot of strongness with this board. I support Bill on that. I'm listening to you the last several months say that. I feel the same way, and I feel it's just begun.
Yeah, I do too. That's the other reason I'm going to put this in place, because I feel like we're going to beat the game. I mean, that's my goal. That I want us to be known for being a high-trust, high-functioning, high-delivering outcomes kind of board. And I want us to do that. In order for us to do that, we have to be willing to communicate, create a space where we can all say, but also create a space where we can respectfully give each other kind of a head nod, like, not right now, right? And it's, you know, I would never humiliate or embarrass someone, and I am very sincere. If somebody came up to me and said, well, I saw on the board meeting, I know how to finesse that and talk about that. But, I think this is a good framework, and again, please feel free to introduce them in other scenarios that you're in as well. Because I think operating principles are a great thing. Even at my family meeting, they could say anything of I want, as long as they say it respectfully. The things I've heard from a 5-year-old in my life. So, great. So, again, I'm gonna, if you support this idea, we'll just work within this framework. You can all tell me what the code language needs to be, and I'll make sure I give you the throat clearing when that's time. And I'm also gonna make sure that they're on the cover letter from me on the agenda, so we're reminded of that before we come into the meeting, okay?
I'm not getting these ears pierced, so.
Mayor, you and I have a similar hairdo though, so I can give you the top of the hat, right?
I think that'd be a good look. I do have to go out to go see more libraries.
Yeah, I understand, no problem. So did we get through everything that needed to vote, Tracy? That we needed to?
We still have a few more things, but we still have a quorum.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you for entertaining that for me. Under unfinished business, Tracy?
Yep, so we're gonna reorder things a little bit, and we're gonna skip over marketing committee and, well, I guess we don't have to do that now.
No, we don't.
Well, let's do it anyway,
Okay.
because it's 6 o'clock.
Right.
We're gonna skip over marketing committee and general updates for now, and move on to the commercial property promotion, just to make sure that we can get that in before the 6:30 mark. I think to start this, it would be good to go into executive session, for the reason on the agenda, so we can just kind of have a conversation about sale and engaging a firm on this, other matters related to appointment, employment of particular person or corporation.
Great. So I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session. So move.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good energy for 6:30 in the evening.
Listen, you guys are gonna be glad I don't look like what I've been going through.
Okay,
All right?
where are we?
We're in,
And Tracy, I just wanted to give an update. There was a question asked last time, about, discussion of potential problems or issues contractually, whether you could do executive session or on that or something, or it had to be discussed in open session. You know, the answer to that is if you're going to be exercising rights and remedies under a contract, that's not executive session material. What it is privileged material with your attorney. So what you do is end the meeting, get the advice from the attorney, and come back in.
So if we get to that point, we'll just let you know ahead of time, and you can tell us what to do. Great.
So you just
I won't know.
you just have to close the meeting. Zoom goes off.
Yes.
And you come back, then you reopen. Get the advice, then reopen.
That's what we were just talking about with you, Rob, how attentive you are.
We got the question.
It was coming up.
There it is.
Well, I was feeling guilty because I didn't get the answer.
Well, thank you. We knew you would. So,
That
Tracy.
was relayed to you. It wasn't even you. You sent someone to the meeting and he brought it back to you.
That's right.
He did.
Stayed after and took the note.
Okay.
Are we in unfinished business now, Tracy?
Yeah, so we can circle back around to the marketing committee. We received one person of interest at sales. Many of you are familiar with him. I know Matt is interested in this. So that makes 2. It seems like we still need to do some recruitment work.
Well, can I be a member of that
yeah.
committee?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, I think I want to because I have a proposition for the committee, but I can help do the work too.
Yeah,
I would be willing to do.
So we have some options.
And I have a marketing background, by the way.
So we could reach out to Ed and say, hey, we're gonna start with 3 members, and part of our mission will be to see if we can drag some more people along with us. I think I could probably convince Dan.
You know who else might be interested? I didn't think about this. Melody Smith-Johnson, that owns Melody. She has.
I did send the recruitment to her.
Yeah, I'll talk to her about it, because I think she might be really interesting, and that she's got, really a lot of social media stuff and would understand some of the stuff that I want to talk to the committee about as well.
So maybe what we can do is agree that maybe we can establish a three-person committee for now.
Yeah.
For today. We'll get an initial meeting set up. If we find some other people between now and then that are interested, maybe they can come check it out, come to the meeting, but then we can appoint the meeting at the next regular board meeting, and, that way we can at least get rolling, because there are some things that on our framework and our plan that are just kind of halt right now. So, if it suits the board, I think it would be a motion to create the marketing committee as a standing committee and appoint Matt, Gwen, and Ed. So long as everyone's comfortable with that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Say it again, Tracy.
It would be to create a standing committee for marketing and appoint to that committee as of the initial members, Matt, Gwen, and Ed Sales.
I think that would be great.
Yes, it will.
Someone make that motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any more discussion about that? All right, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? So you'll notify Ed?
Yes, I'll get in touch with Ed, and I'll get in touch with the two of you, and we'll get a meeting on the calendar, and we can go from there. Cool.
In general updates, Tracy?
The only thing I wanted to bring up, and Rob, you can add, just for awareness, Logan Loft did a mortgage refinance, and because of our position with the pilot, Ada is hooked into the mortgage and the property ownership. So Gwen just had to sign some paperwork to participate in that.
A lot of, and we asked for more paperwork afterwards.
And I think we do get a fee for that, right? For mortgage refinance? Well, we do now.
We have not historically, if it's just a refinance that, and no one's getting any benefits, but
Okay.
I am more than happy to.
Okay, we'll leave it for this one, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I would suggest that any time,
There's no new benefit. There's no fee.
no, I would suggest that if they're asking for you to do anything, that, we at least collect your fees.
Yeah, so the new fee policy, I think they put in there, mortgage refinance, sales
Yeah.
tax exemption,
Yeah,
fees for that. So
yeah,
I know we've done this a lot with the Bartolotas
yeah,
over time.
yeah,
So they might have expectations, and we just changed the fee policy, and I don't know if it's.
yeah, I mean, we just updated the fee policy, yeah. So I would suggest leaving it this time, and then next time this happens, to go ahead and try.
And so we can tell them upfront. This wasn't part of the conversation.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is informational.
Yeah, so this is just informational, there's no action needed, it's like, what's the word for it? And it's like, it's just part of the normal business of a contract. You used it in your email.
I did.
I'm hearing Jeopardy music in my head. I'll say.
This is just a normal part of business, it's something that, you know, we can't necessarily withhold our approval unless there's a real reason, so.
Yeah, it's baked into the agreement, but there is, administrative burden that it places on us, so it's appropriate going forward.
But that's the only general update at this point, it's just that it happened. I don't know why you would hear about it, but if you did, I just wanted everyone to be aware, there was a refinance, we signed the paperwork. Gwen signed the paperwork.
I did.
No new benefits, obviously. That's clear.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, so that's it for general updates.
As always, do you have anything else, Tracy? At the bottom of the agenda, Tracy always
Can we
lists.
do bills?
Oh, yes, I forgot. Do we really need to pay the bill?
We do.
Oh, my God. Please do. Go ahead. I have a feeling there's some bills. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the bills for this month are basically just me and then the final Danable contract, or for the audit, the final bill for the audit, and then there was an auto pay to renew one of our domains for $23 earlier this month. So, this will be the last Danable McKee invoice until the next audit. That's it.
remind us, because we were out the door. So did you all have an opportunity to review the bills in your packets? Any questions, concerns about them? If not, do we need to, are we gonna go through our P&L and stuff tonight as well?
We'll look through the motion for the bill, and then
Just wanted to check, okay. So I'll take a motion to pay the bill. Thank you, Councilor Cuddy, a second. Thank you, Mr. Net. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
I don't have anything wild on the financials to share. So you've got the profit and loss by month. I know that Tessa liked that last month, so I did it again. 575 was the registration for Karen to go to the Cooperstown conference, which is where she is right now. She got there today. She'll be there through Friday around noon, and we'll take notes and report back next month. And then the contract services, the $4,000 in my services, so that's all that happened in April. And I would expect that for next month, we'll have some reimbursements from Karen for this conference, for her hotel and her mileage. So just as a heads up, we should be seeing that. And then on the balance sheet, just keeping an eye on the cash position. We did close out that CD and moved the money into the operating account, which gives us a little bit of wiggle room, a few months of space. We are still expecting we did get paid by Dill Street, which I think we talked about last month. I reached out to the 4042 South Street, and they are now thinking late June, early July. We're good. The recording's coming up.
I got it, okay. Yeah, make sure they were picking up the sound.
So that we're still probably a couple months out before receiving those fees. And I like that our new policy has a timeline on fees being paid.
Very good.
And that's a conversation we can have with applicants as to when they're expecting to close.
Yep. Good. Very, very good.
There'll be a couple more months for that one before we see that cash come in, but, and that'll be helpful. But yeah.
So I will entertain, any questions about the treasurer's report? I will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented. Anybody? Thank you, Mr. Andre. Second, Courtney?
I will second.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? Now we ready?
Yes.
I just want to like to remind everyone that Tracy always lists upcoming events and meetings and trainings. Tracy always lets us know if she thinks there's something we really, really need to be in person at. I'd like us to be represented when that's important. There's a webinar that's coming up. And then there's City of Auburn budget-related meetings. If you want to go and pay attention to what's going on with the city budget, I would encourage all of us to do that. If there's any board updates, anything you all have to... If nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Courtney will second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All righty, thank you very much. Another good year.
Thank you. Thank you all. One more.
Well, I'll see you Saturday.